you see evolving, where the broadcaster possibly, since they are, putting in
Officer and Strategic Advisor to the Board, Bharat 24. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Jagyasi. And to moderate this panel, please join me as I invite onto the stage Principal Correspondent Afaqs, Ms. Benita Chaco. So we're told that she'll be joining us soon. In the meanwhile,
considered as a festival of democracy, and if elections are a festival of democracy, then they are best celebrated by news organizations. The first year in 2023, 9 state elections, massive celebration for India and definitely for the news organizations. Whether we consider it as vital information or as entertainment, news is something that is being watched by young and old, by people across the country, and especially when it comes to elections, people are glued to the television, waiting to watch the fate of their aligned political party. Just as the dust settles down on the 9 state elections, there's the grandest electoral battleground coming up, the Lok Sabha election. From the initial campaigning to the nail-biting counting day, news publications find themselves at the forefront of the elections, disseminating crucial information to an engaged and diverse audience. How do news organizations capitalize this? Manoj sir, would you like to start by telling us?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Afaqs. And as the topic goes, the panel discussion which we have, election bonanza. So let me just put it this way, let me just take you a little back, how these elections started happening in India and where are we standing right now. So you will understand the perspective of how it relates to the, the monies which is also coming to the broadcasters. So way back 1998, when EVM came into the picture, before which the paper ballot used to happen. So why that also started, there's a long story. If I'll take another 10 minutes but I'll cut to the short. When 1998 EVM started in India, the pure purpose of that to, kind of conclude the voting in one day, which earlier used to happen in at least 7-8 days. That was a real more monetizing opportunity for the news channel versus what we have it right now. Because in a day one, as far as counting day is concerned, you'll have to wrap it up everything and get the advertiser interest also. So I'm saying look at both the fronts together. And right now if you have to look at the last 2019 election which happened in India, general election, there were about 912 million eligible voters in India, out of which 67% of voting turnout happened in India. So if you ask me, real per se on the rating system, how many people were watching it? If I have to, kind of assume on my way, on counting day, at least half of them were watching news channels. So do we really get that kind of money on the channels? If you ask me, the answer is yes or no. But yes, when election comes in, all the broadcasters put their neck into it and ensure that we get that money going on for the broadcaster. That's if I have to support.
Gaurav sir, would you like to chip in? What are your thoughts?
So, unlike TV, we are a traditional media house, right? So print and digital, print has its own way of monetizing, elections is not one day, right? One analog is right. Earlier 5-day test match, now it is a 1 day. But for us, the elections start much sooner when they are announced, and in fact, elections when they happen are part of the yearly AOPs. The sales commitments, the editorial commitments, the programming part, all of it is decided right at the beginning of the year. If you know the dates, mostly the elections are going to happen in national elections, state elections, whatever that elections are, right? So the prep starts much earlier. So for us, at least on digital, it is very, very accountable. And like Manoj said, if you have to, compare the audience growth, is it the same as the revenue growth? Really not. It doesn't happen like that, right? But over the, if you capitalize well, from the prep time to the time the governments are formed, the counting happens and all of that, yes, there is a fair bit of spike that comes in across audiences and also on the revenue part, right? And and it's a mix. The government spend, the political parties spend, the corporate spend, because the corporates know ultimately it's about getting the eyeballs, right? And they know there is going to be a spike. So everybody chips in, and yes, very well said. Elections are a festival we celebrate. Yeah.
So just to add to it, what Gaurav has said, any form of news that you are into right now, for anyone to kind of monetize those property during election, I call it as a Kumbh Ka Mela, which comes every 5 years. That doesn't happen every year, specifically for the general election. So the preparation for the elections really starts in the newsroom at least about 7-8 months in advance. How you want to monetize, how you want to put that content, all of that brainstorming goes on a daily basis. Leave aside what sort of a form of news you are serving to the people, just to add what Gaurav has said.
Beyond the regular mediums, the traditional mediums, news is also being disseminated through social media. How can it be effectively utilized to enhance the reach and impact of election-related content?
So I'll take that. Social media is a very important part of any media house right now, even for, TV and also across digital. Even the print has, the print businesses also have social media handles, right? One, it gives you a pulse. What is your audience wanting in terms of content, right? What are the trends? What kind of programming it gives a lot of clue, right? Opinions and polls when we run, right? I mean, it's a standard programming part on the social media channels. You do a lot of contest polls to try and understand where it is swinging. So for us, when we look at social media, the monetization social media is largely stopped, right? So if you know that there's hardly any money on when you put content, but it's the engagement and the users, your brand that gets distributed, right? News anyway is very perishable, right? It's not relevant tomorrow. So you want to reach across to a larger spectrum of people. And then in between that, you try, how do you get those people on social media to come onto your platforms to have a detailed, answer to whatever that they're looking at. Right? So they're very important. You can't run away from them. There's an entire, range of audiences which are only consuming social media. They're not coming onto TV. They're not probably going on to any news website to look at news. Twitter itself, I am myself a very big believer. I look at Twitter every 10 minutes. And there I get a perspective of right wing, left wing, everything, whatever's breaking comes onto Twitter first rather than any TV, right? So you have to be there. You have to have a very clear strategy. You need to know, what your audiences are and what is it that you need to be serving them up with. So very important for us.
Right. So like Sir said, to engage the audience, you are going on to multiple other platforms. Of course, beyond social media, there's also podcasts, other platforms that you're trying to reach out to them. Sir said that these platforms are not getting monetized. Manoj sir, would you like to tell us how are you all looking at ways to monetize these other mediums where you are trying to engage the audience?
As far as monetizing is concerned, look, the industry itself is fighting for the fact that we should come with the unified measurement system, okay? So you really don't know, if a channel presenting a news, where all my audience is consuming those content. For example, there is a classification of saying that on the social media you get a very snacky content. People get attracted to the smaller sort of a, videos there. So all of us, what we started doing as a broadcaster, we started putting those 30-second or 60-second videos there on social media to understand that if at all people are watching the smaller, format and thereby to, monetize as well. But for me, just to look at the overall ecosystem right now for the news channels, elections per se, if I have to put it across, the last 5 state elections which happened predominantly, 3 states were pretty important for the Hindi news channel. I represent the Hindi news channel, so I can talk about that. All of us, what we predicted for our revenues and the ratings to go up, it did happen. But with the fact that the way nowadays, the broadcaster are presenting the news, it's also a question mark. Wherever we go, we kind of tend to fight this phenomena of that I don't want to be present where the negative set of news are going on. That's a separate debate that Anita ji is looking at, smiling me right now, that we tend to have that debate or discussion offline of many a time. I think that's where the real battle is going on. And whenever we talk to our other fellow at the senior level, at the broadcasting side also, we tend to discuss this fact that how we disseminate the fake news problem, which is, everyone is facing it. So first, that you bring that credible news on your platform. How do you do it? You talk to any broadcasting site, CEOs or CBOs, they will say that, boss, my channel is one of the credible channels. I am the number one in this platform. I am the number one in social media. I am the number one on YouTube. I am the number one in BARC. It becomes very confusing for the advertiser, where to look at it, which data to consume. Because the content is more or less same. Now we are not reached to a level in India where the news broadcaster is started to produce a different set of content or digital. I would say at 20% of them are still doing it. But the content more or less is same consumed in a different format altogether.
So in what way then can you use these, you spoke about data, can you use data analytics and audience and insights to create more targeted content for your audience?
Oh yeah, I mean, data is very important, and the good part is digital as data savvy as it can get, right? The insights that digital platforms give you, nobody else does, right? Google Analytics gives you all the information, but a lot of it is post-mortem in the sense, whatever's happened, what kind of, content has been consumed and all of that, what are the audience cohorts, what are they consuming and all. So that, obviously gives us a leverage in terms of, programming, as to what is being consumed. Apart from that, real time, once the users on your website, the algorithms play a very critical role. Your DMPs, with the audience cohorts help you, distribute the right content to the right person at the right time, right? So, and, the amount of content that is being produced is phenomenal. While a user, when he comes onto your website, for an average news website, if it's being consumed on the open web, not on the app, the average is about 2 to 3 page views that they'll give you. From 1 page view to 4 page views, the differentiation is the data, right? If you understand your audiences and serve the right content, that makes the difference in terms of, in terms of the consumption, the way it is happening.
Manoj sir, what are the most effective monetization strategies that you can bring in during the election cycle, and both traditional and digital?
So, like we were just discussing a while ago about the elections. So the best way to put the strategy forward to the advertiser is to reach out to them well in advance. How well you wanted to put into the context of putting their brand in a different manner, which they also can get benefit out of it. Because like Gaurav also said that, elections is not about a one-day phenomena, okay, just a counting day. You get a, minimum 6 months of visibility of any news channel that you go, because the plan happens well in advance. There you get about 6 months of programming available on the channel. How do you do it? Let me just give you a small example. The way the news channels has been looked at so far, that predominantly, people buy news channels for the male audience. This is what it has been, been perceived so long, but not the case any longer. There are female audience also which coming into the news channel. There are data to prove that. So, if you have your strategy right into the place that how you want to monetize, and obviously this is not the right platform that I would talk about the strategy, what we thinking it internally to monetize right now. But I can tell you for sure, if you have a right, context in your mind, that every advertiser that you're approaching with a different mindset. For example, if I have to go to Anita and talk about Patanjali, I have to be very, very clear that what I am going to talk to her. It should not be the same medicines that I'm going to give it to her also, that this is what I want to do it. And similarly to other brands. Sorry, I can see Anita sitting in front of me, so again I'm taking her name. So it's about that different strategy that you have to have for a different set of advertisers.
Both of you spoke about how that 6 months in the run up to the elections, you get a spike in the viewership. But post the elections, once the elections are over, how do you sustain that momentum that you had got during the election?
It's natural. It will happen, right? There will be a slowdown, at least for the content that was related to the elections, right? But it's just like what broadcasting does, one super show after another. So you have to find ways in terms of how do you sustain that programming. But yeah, general interest of the public, whosoever has been following your coverage, naturally that, at least that topic-based interest goes down and the viewership will go down. But I mean, India is a country of news. There's so much that keeps happening. So there will be a drop, but nothing that can't be sustained, right? So.
No, sir. Is there something that you all do differently to ensure that those eyeballs that you got during the election, they stay with you?
Like I said, I would not really discuss the strategy that what we gonna be doing it, but I can give you a small idea to it. For example, we have partnered about 4,000 people on ground for general election, which no news channel would have thought of doing it. So we have about 4,000 news informer on the ground for general election. There are about 543 Lok Sabha seats that you have to cover. It's not about that you are a HSM based channel, so you have to focus only on Hindi market. You will have to look at down south also. You will have to look at northeast also, which probably when you have your manpower on ground, you can get that news very fast. For example, on counting day, the last counting which happened in the state election, if you were to watch top 5 channels, all of them were showing a different result at the same time. How was it possible? Because of a particular channel had so many informer on the ground. For example, if I have to talk about Bharat 24 that I represent, we had about 4,000 people reporting for us on ground, the informers, which were giving us the news very fast and accurate. We were the first one to predict who's coming at where. And the seats were what we were showing versus others were pretty different than what it was. So it's about how you present this information accurately on those particular days. That's also defined where you stand in front of advertisers' eyes also.